Hey friends, John here. Welcome back to Voices of English Story. Today, I want to tell you an incredible story about how English took me to my dream, my passion, and my success.
If you have big dreams to become a doctor, engineer, lawyer, businessman, or anything great, then you need English 100%. There is no doubt about it. English is spoken by more than 1.5 billion people around the world. It is the language of travel, business, and the internet. If you don't speak English, you might miss big opportunities. Getting a better job, making international friends, or enjoying movies and books in their original language. But don't worry. You can start learning today and become part of this global community. If I can learn English and achieve my dream, you can too. My name is John, and I am from Brazil. I was born in a small town in Brazil. My family was not rich, not poor, just middle class. We had enough to live, but not enough for luxuries. My parents worked very hard every single day. My father was a taxi driver, and my mother was a school teacher. They always told me, education is the key to success.
Since I was a little boy, I had one dream: to become an engineer. I still remember the moment that changed my life. I was 10 years old, and the power went out in our neighborhood. Everyone was worried. The whole town was dark. Then, an engineer came to fix the problem. I watched him work carefully, checking the wires, using tools I'd never seen before. In just a few hours, the lights came back. Everyone clapped and cheered. That moment was magic to me. I thought, one day, I'll become like him, someone who solves problems and makes life better. But as I grew up, I realized something very important. If you want to become an engineer, you need English 100%. All the best engineering books are in English. All the research papers, software tools, and international companies use English. Even in my country, good engineers needed English to study, to work with clients, to design projects, and to communicate globally. And my English was terrible. I went to a public school where they taught very little English. I knew basic words like hello and how are you. But when I saw a full English sentence, I felt lost.
I remember one day in school, my English teacher asked me, "John, can you read this sentence?" I looked at the page. The words were dancing. My mouth was dry. I don't know, miss," I whispered. The class laughed. I felt so small. That day, I went home, sat alone in my room, and asked myself, how will I become an engineer if I can't even understand English? I felt hopeless. Then something happened that changed everything. One evening, my father came home after a long day of driving. He saw my sad face and asked, "John, what's wrong, son? You've been quiet these days." I looked down and said, "Papa, I want to become an engineer, but my English is terrible. Without English, I can't study engineering." He was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "If English is stopping you, then learn English. Go to a place where everyone speaks English. I was shocked. But Papa, we don't have money for that. He smiled again. We don't have much, but we have enough. Your dream is important.
That night, my parents and I sat together at the dinner table. We talked about where I could learn English best. Why did we choose Canada? Everyone speaks English there. I would have no choice but to speak English every day. Canada has one of the best education systems in the world. It's multicultural and welcoming to international students. It's more affordable than the USA or UK. It wasn't an easy decision. We were a middle-class family with limited savings. But my parents believed in me. They used almost all their savings to pay for my flight, my English school, and my first few months of living in Canada. Before I left, my mother held my hand and said, "John, we're giving you everything we have. Promise me, you won't give up." Tears filled my eyes. I promised, Mama. And with one suitcase, a little money, and a big dream, I flew to Canada. The moment I landed in Toronto, I felt like an alien. The weather was freezing. In Brazil, it was always warm. My hands were like ice. The food was strange. I missed my mother's homemade rice and beans. The people were friendly, but they spoke so fast. At the airport, a man said, "Hey, do you need a taxi?" I froze. I didn't understand. I just smiled and said, "Yes." Then he asked, "Where to?" I had no idea what he said. My brain stopped. Finally, I showed him the address on my phone.
That night, in my small rented room, I cried. What am I doing here? I can't understand anything. How will I survive? The next day, I went to my English language school. The teacher smiled and said, "Welcome, everyone. Let's introduce ourselves." When it was my turn, I stood up. My hands were shaking. "My name John. I from Brazil." I wanted to say more, but my mind was blank. The teacher smiled kindly, but I saw some students laughing. That night, I felt humiliated, but also determined. I made a promise to myself. No matter how hard it is, no matter how many mistakes I make, I will learn English. I made a plan. I would listen, read, speak, and write every single day. I would think in English, dream in English, live in English. The first few weeks were the hardest. It felt like being born again, learning to speak, listen, and understand. Before I tell you how I improved, let me share the strange things I noticed in Canada. First, no school uniforms. In Brazil, students always wore uniforms, but in Canada, people wore whatever they wanted. Pajamas, hoodies, anything. Second, people don't touch much. In Brazil, we hug, kiss, and stand close. In Canada, people love personal space. Third, the weather changes in seconds. Sunny one minute, snowing the next. Fourth, self-checkout machines in stores. I had never seen that before. You scan and pay yourself. And finally, Canadians say sorry for everything. Even if you bump into them, they say sorry. But my biggest challenge was still English.
People spoke so fast and used slang I'd never heard. In class, I learned, "Do you want to get a coffee?" But people said, "Wanna grab a coffee?" Or "I'm down," or "That's awesome." It felt like a different language. One day, our teacher gave us a simple writing task. I was confident. I wrote carefully and handed it in. When she returned my paper, it was full of red marks. She said gently, "John, your writing is good, but you think in Portuguese and translate into English. That's why it sounds strange." That day, I realized to master English, I had to stop thinking in my language. I had to live in English. So I changed my strategy. I watched English movies with subtitles, then without subtitles. I listened to podcasts every morning. I joined a conversation club and forced myself to talk, even when I made mistakes. I wrote short stories in English every week. Every night, I would write one sentence. Today, I learned something new. That sentence kept me motivated. Slowly, everything started to change. I began to understand people better. I could watch movies without subtitles. I made friends from different countries: Japan, Mexico, India, Canada.
One day, my teacher said, "John, your English has improved a lot. You're ready for university." I couldn't believe it. I applied for engineering programs in Canada. It was my biggest dream. And a few months later, I received an email. "Congratulations, John. You have been accepted into the University of Toronto, Faculty of Engineering." I cried. I ran to my room, called my parents, and shouted, "Mama, Papa, I did it!" My mother cried. My father said proudly, "I told you, son, nothing is impossible." University life was hard. The classes were in fast English. The textbooks were huge, but I never gave up. I studied day and night. I asked questions. I worked part-time to support myself. After 4 years of hard work, I graduated with honors. When I walked across the stage to receive my degree, I saw my parents sitting in the audience, crying with joy. That moment, that one moment, made every struggle worth it. Today, I work as a civil engineer in an international company. I design bridges, roads, and buildings that connect people. I work with teams from Canada, Germany, and Japan, all in English. Sometimes I look back at that scared boy who couldn't read a sentence, and I smile. He never gave up. So if you're listening to this and you think English is too hard, remember this. It's not impossible. It's just a journey. Don't worry about your accent. Don't worry about your mistakes. Every mistake is a step forward. English gave me a new life. It took me to my dream, and it can take you to yours too. If I can do it, you can too. Believe in yourself. Start today and never give up. Thank you.